In the spring of 1942, a Los Angeles nursery owner named Tom Sakamoto had 11 days to sell a farm his family had worked for 20 years. The offer that came in was $200, cash. Take it or leave, the truck's running. He took it, packed 2 suitcases, and 3 months later he was eating item number 7 on this list off a tin tray in the Owens Valley wind. Number 4 was handed out so often that some children, decades later, still couldn't stand the smell of it. If you've made it this far, hit subscribe. There's more of this waiting for you. Let's start the countdown. Let's start with the one nearly every barrack in every camp had in common. 10. Weak barley coffee. Roasted barley, hot water, nothing else. Someone would scorch the barley in a pan until it went dark, then let it steep like tea, no filter, just settling. It tasted like burnt toast and smelled like a kitchen that used to have real coffee in it. A pound of roasted barley substitute ran about a nickel in camp canteens, against 30 cents or more for a pound of real coffee that year. For families who'd run cafes and diners before the war, pouring this into a tin cup was its own quiet grief. That was the whole morning, some mornings. A scorched smell standing in for something they used to have plenty of. 9. Canned corned beef hash. Corned beef, potatoes, onion, all from cans, heated in a pan until the edges browned. Cooks scraped it straight from army surplus tins into giant pots, no seasoning to spare. It smelled like salt and metal, and it filled you up fast, which in a mess hall serving thousands was the whole point. This was standard issue War Relocation Authority surplus. No label on the can by the time it reached the mess hall, running the government an estimated 8 cents a serving, served to people whose dignity was now measured in ration units. Eating it meant swallowing that fact, along with the hash. 8. Camp-grown daikon pickles. Daikon radish, salt, sometimes rice bran, packed tight in a barrel. Families grated or sliced the daikon, layered it with salt, and weighted it down for days until it turned tangy and translucent. The crunch and sharp sourness cut through the blandness of everything else on the tray. Salt itself was rationed and dear. A barrel might use less than 15 cents worth a month. But Issei women, first-generation immigrants who'd grown daikon in California soil before the war, replanted it in desert camp gardens anyway, refusing to let one more thing be taken from them. A jar of pickles on a mess hall table was a small act of rebellion nobody could arrest you for. Here's the part nobody talks about. A mess hall built for 2,000 people is one of the loneliest rooms in the world, because a family isn't sitting together. The children eat with other children, the fathers sit apart, and the meal that used to mean us now just means fed. That's what incarceration does to food. It doesn't just change what's on the tray, it changes who you're allowed to eat it with. And that ache is older than most of us realize, if we've ever sat down to a meal alone and felt the whole room. Number 7 starts with the one ingredient that still looked like home. 7. Rice with soy sauce. Only steamed rice, a splash of soy sauce, nothing added. Cooked plain, poured over, stirred once. It tasted like salt and starch, and, underneath that, like home, because rice was the one thing that still looked like the meals from before. A small bottle of soy sauce, when the camp canteen had it at all, ran about 15 cents. Real money against the roughly $12 a month a father might earn doing skilled camp labor. This is what Tom Sakamoto, the nursery owner from the start of this video, made most nights that first year. Plain rice, a little shoyu, and whatever silence filled the rest of the plate. 6. Foraged wild greens from the camp perimeter. Wild mustard greens, dandelion, lamb's quarters, whatever grew near the fence line. People walked the edges of camp at dawn, pulling what they recognized from farming back home, then boiled it down with whatever fat they had. It tasted bitter first, then green, then like something the desert hadn't managed to take from them. Some of these families had run farms back home, clearing $3,000 or more in a good season. Here, a fistful of greens pulled near a guard tower was worth exactly nothing on paper, and everything on the plate. Every leaf they found was proof they still knew how to feed their own family. 5. Canned peaches, rare treat. Canned peach halves, syrup included, served cold from the can. A cook would crack the lid and spoon them out, 1 or 2 halves per tray, no more. The syrup was almost too sweet after months of bland food, and kids would fight over who got the extra half. The WRA bought these in bulk for roughly 9 cents a can wholesale, which is exactly why they showed up so rarely. And for children born in camp, one of the only sweet memories of that whole chapter. A can of peaches meant, for one meal, that someone had decided you deserved something good. Talk to anyone who worked a camp mess hall kitchen, and they'll tell you the same thing happened there first, before anything else did. There's a version of grief that doesn't look like crying. It looks like standing in front of an open icebox and closing it again without taking anything out. Because a meal takes a kind of hope you don't always have. The families in these camps kept cooking anyway, with almost nothing, in someone else's kitchen, on someone else's schedule. That wasn't nothing. That was a decision to stay alive on purpose. Here's what that decision looked like. Plated. 4. White bread, with margarine, white bread, margarine. That's the whole list. Cooks sliced loaves trucked in from outside contractors and spread margarine thin because it had to stretch. It tasted like flour and grease, soft and a little gray. Nothing like the bread from a real bakery. This is the bread mentioned at the start of this video, served so often that some of those children, grown now, still can't stand the smell of margarine, which cost about 10 cents a pound, where real butter ran 3 times that. Even something this plain got saved, wrapped in a handkerchief, snuck back to a barrack for a child who hadn't eaten enough that day. 3. Watery, vegetable stewed cabbage, carrot, potato, onion, whatever the kitchen received that week, boiled thin in a big pot. Cooks stretched a small delivery of vegetables across thousands of servings by adding more water than food. It tasted like broth more than stew, warm going down, forgettable, except for how often it appeared. Camp kitchens ran on a food budget of around 45 cents per person per day, set by the government, and every thin bowl showed it. Thin as it was still someone's job to make sure everyone got a bowl of it. 2. Mess hall powdered eggs. Powdered egg, water, oil for the pan. Cooks reconstituted the powder with water, whisked it by hand, and scrambled it in batches large enough to feed a block. It smelled sulfurous and tasted almost like eggs, close enough that children ate it without complaint and adults ate it without comment. The government bought powdered egg in bulk tins for about 20 cents a pound, a fraction of what fresh eggs cost outside the fence, which made it a fixture of every mess hall from Tule Lake to Rower. For a generation of kids, this was simply what breakfast meant, until it wasn't anymore. There's a difference between poverty food and prison food, even when the ingredients look the same. Poverty food is a choice made inside limits you set for yourself. Prison food is a choice made for you, by someone who decides what you're worth feeding. That's the quiet horror underneath a lot of these dishes. It isn't that the food was cheap, it's that the cheapness was a decision made about human beings. Knowing that changes how you look at a can of hash or a bowl of thin stew. And it's exactly what's sitting on the tray for the last one on this list. 1. Canned Vienna sausage over rice. Vienna sausages from the can, steamed rice underneath. Cooks opened case after case of the small canned sausages and laid them over scoops of rice. No sauce, no seasoning. Salty, a little rubbery, warm from the can. And somehow, for kids who grew up in the camps, this became the meal people remember most. It was cheap surplus food, running the WRA a fraction of a cent per sausage, served to people who'd once run farms, shops, and restaurants of their own. And yet it's the dish that comes up again and again in memory, because it was dinner, and dinner still meant someone showed up to make it. Pick one of these, just one, make it this week. Sit at an actual table, not the couch, and set a place like someone's joining you, because in a way, they are. Eat it slow enough to taste what it is you're really tasting. Tell me in the comments, was it the daikon pickles or the canned peaches that surprised you most? These meals were never about nutrition, and they were never about being cheap. They were about people refusing to stop being people. That's what they still mean. That's the only word that matters here. Dignity.